monster.
I'm your number one fan.
Now clear your minds. Know's what scares you. It has from the very beginning.
You know, it's Halloween. I guess everyone's entitled to one good scare, huh?
Just been informed that zombies have entered the building. They're at the door. They're coming in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Midnight Monster Corner podcast. I'm your host, as always, Corey, and alongside me is my good pal, Tony. What's going on, Tony?
What's going on, Corey? How you doing, bud?
Doing great, doing great. We're back for another episode, man. Roulette episode.
Roulette episode.
Excited about this one.
Absolutely thrilled about this one.
Definitely. Yeah, I just talking with you. You've watched something a little newer. I've watched something a little older. Both of us, have you seen this movie in the past or no?
Yes, I have.
Okay. This one was a first time watch for me.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I didn't mention that to you. But yeah, before we get into the episode and get in deep with these films, just wanted to remind you guys that if you're not part of the Facebook group, head on over to our Facebook group. We would love to have you. All you got to do is it is a private group, so just ask and we'll let you join and join in the discussion and the fun. We've got suggestion episodes every month that we ask for participation on, and you get entered in a chance to win a prize. So that's awesome. But yeah, with that, we're also on Twitter. For the life of me, I can't remember that sort of thing. I believe it's the PG Frosty at Twitter, right? I believe that's what it is.
Oh yeah.
And then you can also check us over at TikTok at Midnight Monster 20. And yeah, that's about it. Also, we're on pretty much anywhere that you can hear a podcast. And then also, if you want to watch the video footage of the podcast, you can head on over to our YouTube and join there. And we'd love to have you watch our episodes. But with that, you ready to dive in, man?
Ready to dive head first in, man.
Alrighty. So you want me to go first? You want to go first?
I mean, I'll go first, man, if you want.
Okay.
So for this episode, I decided to revisit a film I haven't seen in a long time. This is a movie that's very nostalgic for me. When I first started collecting and first started really diving into like renting from video stores and stuff, I went to Hollywood Video, and this movie like stuck out for me mainly for the cover. The cover looked fantastic. I was like, oh man, this looks really cool. And then I looked and I was like, oh man, that title's really sweet. So I rented it at Hollywood Video, checked it out, remember really enjoying it. It's one of those films that, you know, just it just draws you in. It's one of those ones that you would see in the, you know, when you're scrolling through the VHS section of your local video store when you used to do that, and you would see a slasher, like a VHS cover on the shelf, and it would just draw your attention, and you'd just be like, you'd be like a moth to a flame. You'd just be zoned in. And you're like, I have to check this out. I have to see this, man. But the movie I checked out is The Hills Run Red.
Awesome.
And The Hills Run Red is from 2009. So going into this one, man, I it's been so long. The only thing I really remembered was the killer, Babyface, because he looks so badass. He's amazing looking. The whole outfit, the mask, his weapons, all that stuff was just jam up. It was perfectly done. You could tell like the filmmaker, based on the story, was a huge fan of horror films. But the plot basically is you follow this character named Tyler, and he is on the hunt for this lost slasher film. It had a screening. It came out in '82. It had a screening in a couple cities, and then it was notoriously pulled from shelves and hidden and buried because of the controversy that surrounded it. So not very many people have seen the movie. and all prints are lost. So that really the only thing left was a trailer. So he is obsessively trying to find this film to learn more about it, to find out why it's so controversial, why it was pulled, what happened. But he can't get a hold of the director. The director has gone on the lam. He's disappeared, nowhere to be found. He basically makes this his life's obsession, and it runs into a problem with his girlfriend, Serena, who lives with him. Basically, she feels neglected. She's, kind of like trying to get his attention, but he's just not having it. So he's completely zeroed in, focused on finding this movie. And I couldn't for the life of me figure out whether he just wanted to delve into it because he's doing a documentary on it, because it turns out he is doing a documentary on the discovery and the journey to find this movie, or because he just personally wanted to see it, or a little bit of both. I mean, it could, maybe he's thinking this could shoot him into like superstardom, like get his foot in the door for the, being in the industry and whatnot. But basically, he has another friend. He has a friend named Lalo. I think it's Lalo. And he collects his friend Lalo and his girlfriend Serena. She's going to work on the sound. She does the sound, and Lalo does the camera work and stuff like that. He's basically the interviewer, and he goes out. Well, basically, he finds the only link to the director, Wilson Wyler Kincannon, is his daughter, Alexa, which she works at a strip joint, and he tracks her down, and she's strung out on heroin, and she's all messed up, and like she has no idea where she's at half the time. So basically, he takes it upon himself to like help her out, rescue her from that situation she's in. It's weird. I've never seen this before, but he takes her, gets a hotel room, and basically like weans her off the junk, and like she relapses. She's going through hell. And he's just there every step of the way, taking care of her and this and that, so he can get her clean and get her level headed so she can talk to him about the movie and this. So he's really determined, to find this movie. It's cool because there's a lot of scenes in the beginning of the movie with him in his house, and him and his buddy, like they're both movie geeks. They talk about movies and stuff like that. They're horror fans, so they have a lot of interesting discussions. This movie's really kind of meta. I never realized that. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but I forgot how meta it was. They do a lot of jokes, kind of like a lot of tropes. They poke fun of it a little bit in this movie, certain areas. And I forgot about that completely. I did not realize that was a thing. So that was pretty cool to see that in this movie. Because I thought for the longest time it was more of a straightforward slasher film, but it's really not. There's a lot going on with this movie. So anyway, so they go, they start their journey. It's the core group, the four of them, Tyler, his girlfriend Serena, who does sound. They're helping him out with his film, his documentary, and his buddy Lalo's doing the camera work, and then Alexa's along for the ride. She's helping out. Basically, they go deep into the country where the film was originally shot, and basically their journey begins to find the film, or find people that have seen it, or anything they can to tie them into discovering this hidden gem, this notorious hidden gem. But there's a lot of cool stuff. There's like a lot of posters in the background. Like they go to a movie theater in the beginning, and you can see a lot of posters in the background and stuff like that. I love stuff like that. I always have an eye for things like that when I'm watching a movie. And there was a ton of that. Even in his apartment, there was a lot of movie posters and stuff. And I think a lot of them were made up titles and stuff like that. They weren't actual movies, but it was pretty cool. Some of the titles were pretty funny. But man, I'm telling you, the look of the killer Babyface. So there's the Babyface in the movie, and you see the structure of the movie is kind of funny because you're following them and their story, but then it cuts to clips of the movie randomly throughout the film, so you get like the bulk of your kills in the clips of the movie, so to speak. Which some of the kills are pretty brutal. A lot of CGI, unfortunately. There is like even one of the best kills in the movie is heavily CGI'd, which is kind of unfortunate. But considering when this movie came out and the time, there was a lot of that going on, so it's pretty normal, standard fare. But the performances are pretty good across the board. They weren't that bad. This guy, the main character, the actor's name is Tad Hillenbrink, I think. But I recognized him from like the American Pie offshoot movies where he played like Stifler or Stifler's brother or something. So that face looked familiar.
Okay.
I was like,
yeah,
I've seen him in a lot of stuff before. So he instantly looked familiar. But he was pretty good. Him and his buddy had good banter back and forth. Just being movie geeks and talking about movies and stuff like that. They're really believable. But unfortunately, there's some stuff in the movie it's like they have like this forced love triangle between the main characters and stuff like that, and it's like don't really need that. It doesn't really fit the tone or anything like that. It's just very odd, and this is one of my glaring problems of the movie. There's a couple of problems with this movie for sure. It's not a perfect film by any means, but like I said, the kills being one of them. Unfortunately, they're kind of sporadic, and the edits and stuff like that are really quick with the kills, so you don't blink. It's one of those blink and you miss it kind of things. If you don't really pay attention, it's a lot of them. But getting into this movie, I mean, I'm probably gonna delve a little bit into spoiler territory. So if I just wanted to do the main basic plot before I kind of delve into that stuff. But for viewers out there, if you want to check it out, please do. But I'm just a warning for spoilers when I kind of talk about that kind of stuff, because it does kind of go into my rating and what I think about the movie overall. The kills were, like I said in the beginning, they were offshoots, because a lot of the main kills didn't happen until pretty much like the second act. And that's when our babyface, like the babyface of the present, was really doing the majority of the kills. But it was almost like it goes back to I think about the raft scene in The Burning, where it's so quick, like all the kills happen at one time in one little scene. And I'm like, oh shit, like one of those things that's like, oh, chaos is happening. But the rest of the kills are kind of sporadic in the first half because of the cuts to the movie. And which, like I said, they're pretty cool. They're decent. Nothing spectacular. I do like the trailer. So there's a fake trailer of the movie, the movie within the movie, for The Hills Run Red. So it has that same voice actor, that Grindhouse kind of, that voice you hear. It kind of reminds me of Grindhouse with Quentin Tarantino and Rodriguez, the fake trailers that were in there. It's almost like that was plucked out of that and put into this movie. It really felt that way. So that was really neat. I really enjoyed that. The characters were, like I said, that fucking love triangle, man. I that whole thing kind of bogged the movie down for me. And I was like, man, it could have been so much better if they would have just scrapped that whole thing. And I understand why they did it, to show that he was so obsessed with it, which is another thing. It's really unbelievable and unrealistic that we're horror fans. We love movies. We love watching stuff, but to neglect your girlfriend, and I mean, just, it doesn't make any sense at all. Like he could have, like he was doing like research and stuff like that. He could have stopped the research, and because she was coming on to him and everything, he's just like, oh nope, sorry, I'm right in the middle of this. I can't do it. And it wasn't really a build up to that, but you can kind of tell that it had been happening a lot, because her reaction was like, oh god, you know what I'm saying? Like she was just like used to it by that point. It only happened one time though, but that pretty much kicks the whole love triangle, because she's now banging Lalo, so they're hooking up, and then he our main character Tyler goes off and shacks up with Alexa. Doesn't hook up with her, but is trying to get her clean and stuff like that. And he's respectful. He's not like, and even she's coming on to him. He's like, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I have a girlfriend. And I'm really, really, this is like a mission for me. I don't want to kind of stray off from what my goal here. So, like, and then when she sees him pull up with her, when they're all meeting up to go into the woods to start the documentary, she's all jealous, and then I'm like, oh my god, dude, this is just too much, man. Too much is going on.
This is a horror movie, not a drama film.
It's exactly. You didn't need that heavy, plotting and stuff like that. This movie was unique in what they wanted to do. Like a story like this is pretty unique. So really, with that and stuff like that, it's just padding. Like you didn't need it. And the story itself was pretty unique and cool. So you didn't really need that going on. But like I said, it is what it is. It was done. So you could tell like I said, going back, the director was a horror fan. He knew what he was doing. He respects the genre. The killer, dude. I would love to see a standalone, like, if they were able to make like the Hills Run Red that they were trying to find within the movie, if they were able to make that movie today, that would be awesome because the killer looks so badass. He's so cool looking. But I mean, his mask is the shit, dude. I don't know if you ever played Twisted Metal Black, Corey.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember Dollface from that movie, from the game? She drove Darkseid, the big truck, and she had that porcelain mask over. That's what it reminded me of. So that's what I instantly thought of because I played that a lot when I was younger. And I was like, oh man, that reminds me of that. So much so. But yeah, his look was just killer, dude. He has I love the little things they did because he had his name was Babyface and he had like baby blocks like on a necklace. And when you heard the baby blocks rattle together, you knew he was coming. Like that was pretty cool. I like stuff like that. But so the group goes into the woods. They get attacked by this group of rednecks, and that's where the majority of the kills come from Babyface. He slaughters the rednecks completely. Goes through and just completely annihilates them. And then so our group breaks off. Alexa, goes. She's being chased by Babyface. Tyler feels like he has to go save her because he brought her into the situation. So he's like, I got to go after her. You guys take off and get out of here. Call the sheriff, call the police, call anybody. Just get somebody out here. I'm going to go after her. So, of course they don't do that. They go after them as well. And then, we meet all the characters intertwine, they get together on this farmhouse, and it's like, okay, well, this is interesting. They all meet up there. Well, they don't all meet up there, but they all slowly show up at this farmhouse, and we realize that the director of the movie, Wilson Wyler Concannon, this is his farmhouse, and he lives here, and he's a crazy son. Played by William Sadler, which is really cool. I'm a big William Sadler fan. I love William Sadler. So he's one of the highlights of this movie, acting wise. He is so sinister and so evil, and just awesome. I love his character. Not so much what he's doing, which is really fucked up. When we find out at the end, it's like, oh, that's fucking nasty. That's disgusting. That is not cool. So, so spoiler alert, Alexis is in on it. They're still shooting the movie, and they're using the group to finish the movie. That's what happens at the end. She's in on it. Babyface is her child with her father, which is fucked up. So there's that. And yeah, but the child, the illegitimate child. So the story in the original Hills Run Red is that this kid is fucked up, and he starts cutting off his face and using scissors cut off. But their child in real life does that and fucks up his face. When they unmask him, his face is gnarly looking. It's really disgusting and grotesque looking.
Mm-hmm.
But the most creative thing that they did in this movie was when, you know, I think it's Serena. So she's talking to Babyface like, "Don't let me go. Like, don't help. You know, help me. Just let me go, please. I won't. You know, the standard shit you hear in a slasher film, right?"
Yeah.
She starts singing this nursery rhyme to him because in the movie that's, you know, what they did to kind of like calm him down. So she starts singing this nursery rhyme to him, and he's watching, and he's like looking at her, and all of a sudden this really normal voice comes out of his, like, behind his mask, and it's like, oh shit, that's weird. I didn't expect that them to do that. You expect him to sound like a mongoloid or something because he looks like one, but no, he talks like a normal person. It's really sinister sounding,
Wow.
really putting, because you just don't expect it. So yeah, there's some creative choices that they made in this that I liked, and then there's a good bit that I didn't like. I'll be honest with you. Did not hold up well on a rewatch. I remember the first time watching this, I really dug it. This time around, it's like, it's okay. It's an average slasher film. It's got a very unique premise. I will give it that. It's something that hasn't been really done too much before. So, but I think they were just too overzealous with it, and it kind of bogged down the film. So they were, you know, unfortunately, that's just my opinion. But the endings really fucked up, and yeah, it reminded me a lot. The very end reminded me a lot of John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness, kind of the same ending, where our main character is sitting, like, forced to watch this movie that he was involved in, and he just goes insane from watching it, and he starts laughing to himself, and he's, you know, cracked. He's just completely done. All his, you know, everybody's been, you know, pretty much slaughtered. Well, his friend has been slaughtered. His girlfriend survives, but it's kind of fucked up what happens to her. You know, well, that's the thing. We kind of can tell what happens to her at the end, but it's not really shown in the movie, so you have to, like, kind of
Interpret it.
interpret it that way. It's not really fleshed out or explained or anything like that. It looks like it is, but the editing is kind of choppy, so just kind of cuts away, and there's a lot of that going on. It's got that early, like, or the late 2000s, like, editing thing that they do. That goes on. That's kind of, it can be jarring at times, but all in all, man, it's a pretty average slasher film. I wish they would have made it, personally, I wish they would have made it kind of a more straightforward slasher film, like having Babyface get his own movie where it's just a slasher film and not like a meta horror film would really cool, because he is a badass looking killer, and he utilizes a bunch of weapons, but he does at one point use a gun, which is unfortunate.
Oh, yeah.
But he doesn't kill this person with the gunshot. He incapacitates them with the gunshot, so it's kind of forgivable. But unfortunately, he does use a gun, and it is what it is. But yeah, it's like I said, fairly. The acting's pretty decent. Editing's kind of choppy. I wish they would have scrapped the whole, you know, love triangle thing. Despite its plot and its unique plot, it kind of, you know, hinders the movie. So, you know, for me, when I sit down and rate it, because I didn't want to rate it on Letterboxd, I didn't want to kind of spoil it when I was watching. So when I log it, I'm going to do a 3 stars out of 5.
Okay. Yeah, this was a film that I actually remember when I worked at a movie gallery, it came through, and it was a film that I watched as soon as, because when we worked at movie gallery, I don't know if you know this, I don't know if many people know this, but we actually get movies. We were getting movies a week in advance before the release date, so we were able to take them home, check them out, watch them, and then a week later put them on the shelf. And the reason being behind that is so that way, people come in asking, your opinion on a certain movie, you can give it to them.
Yeah.
It was video games. We did that with video games too. But this one I remember picking up and watching because, of course, I watched damn near every horror film that came through that place.
Yeah.
But I don't remember in full on everything about this film. I remember that I liked certain things of it. I liked the plot twist at the end. That was pretty cool. The only thing that I like you said, the love triangle. I distinctly remember not wanting to watch that film again because of the love triangle.
Yeah.
So I know where you're coming from. But again, I was honestly a younger guy, and at the time, Hatchet really impressed me. So maybe I need to give this a rewatch and just see if I like it.
Mhm.
But
Well, it surprised me because I don't remember it being as meta as it was. They do a lot of jokes where, even his friend Lalo was like, you can't go out in the middle of the woods and you got to carry a gun. He pulls out a gun. He's like, I got one just in case. He's like, you don't want to get caught with your pants down. He's like, you also have to have, oh, I got my cell phone. And look at that. I got more service now in the middle of the woods than I would in the city. And it's just like little jokes like that. It's like, okay, you get it. Like stuff like that's a trope.
mm-hmm.
And you play on those tropes a little bit. And they did. They played on a lot more tropes in this movie than I originally remembered. I forgot it was so meta. I didn't realize they played on it as much as they did, but they do. Yeah, it's really meta.
Yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of kind of reminded me a little bit, not too much, but The Rise and Fall of Leslie Vernon, Behind the Mask. Like,
okay.
I think that's a better film, but
Yeah.
gave me that feel with the meta aspect and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then the fact that this guy's still directing this movie. He's not done yet. He was just a rough cut that he showed everybody back in 1982 when it came out, and it was so notorious because they were actually killing people. Like it wasn't fake. And the director was so tired. It's funny because he was so tired of the original guy, the original stuntman that was playing Babyface. He was so tired of him messing up that he's like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. And he ended up really killing people and like filming it. And it would turn out to be his own snuff film.
Wow.
So yeah. And I did forget there is a homage to The Shining in this, like a straight shot out of The Shining. I'm like, oh wow, that's pretty noticeable. You're not gonna not think of The Shining when you see this happen. So yeah, that happened too. But then, like I said, it was nice to go back to this movie after so long and watch it because I forgot a lot of aspects to it. Like I said, I completely forgot the majority of it. Felt like a first time watch for me again because it's been so long since I've seen it. So yeah, it's fun stuff, man. I'm glad I went back and watched this one. Like I don't regret checking this one out.
Definitely. Right on. Yeah, I find when you go back to watch films that you didn't really appreciate back in the day, it's always nice giving a film a second chance.
Well, yeah, I'm always a big proponent of like rewatch. Sometimes you're not, like I said, sometimes you're not in the right mood to watch something, and you watch it for the first time, you're not in the right mood. You're gonna say, oh, I didn't like it. Then you go back in a better mood and check it out, and you're like, okay, that movie was a lot better than I thought it was. So, yeah, it can change your perspective a lot. So I always champion like go back and give a movie another shot. Second chances are always key. For me. So there's a lot of stuff. A lot of times there's been movies I've watched, didn't like, watched it again, ended up liking, and then there's sometimes I watched the movie the first time, I actually liked it, then went back and rewatched it, didn't like it as much. So, like I said, your perspectives through the years and your taste kind of change a little bit, so that kind of reflects it as well.
Definitely. Right on. Well, all right, so the film that I watched is a film from 1988. I'm going to kind of jog your I wouldn't say memory, but I'm I'm kind of curious to pick your brain a little bit and see if you know this. So the film is from 1988. It is on Tubi. So if you haven't seen this film, make sure that you stop right here. You go check it out because it's not a bad watch. It's a pretty decent little film, but we'll get into that. But Tony, the tagline. So the origins of it is from Spain. No,
From Spain.
from Spain. Mm-hmm.
And it came out in '88.
Yes.
Ooh.
Takes place in America, but it's from Spain.
Hmm.
All right. So the tagline, the first tagline, there's two taglines here to go over. There's nothing silent about nights in Paddock County.
Oh, I know exactly what movie you're.
What is it?
Edge of the Axe.
That's it.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. This was a pretty decent little film. And again, if you haven't seen this film, I highly recommend you stop right here, get on Tubi, watch it because it is for free. And it's like I believe it's the Arrow cut, so it's like a really good quality cut.
As a matter of fact, I got it right there on my shelf. I've been waiting for this movie to come out for years, like a physical release. Like, no, excuse me, it had a VHS release, I believe, but like a DVD or Blu-ray release for a long time. And when Arrow finally secured the rights to do it and they put it out, I was so stoked. That I remember pre-ordering it because I was so happy that it was coming out because I've been wanting to watch this movie for so long.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was a day one pre-order for me.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably gonna end up picking it up for the collection, definitely. But yeah, so I'm gonna jump straight into it. This is a film about two main characters. Gerald, gosh, what's his last name? Is it Miller? I think it's Miller. I think it's Miller. But Gerald and Lillian. And basically, Lillian goes through a story. She befriends Gerald over a period of time, and they really start to hit it off because he's kind of I guess you would say he's like a video game nerd or whatever. And this is back when computers were just starting to make their rounds.
Yeah.
And he was big into video games on computer PC. And he was starting to get her into it a little bit, and they were like they could chat amongst each other online and stuff like that. And again, that was way before technology was around.
This movie's really interesting in that way because it showcased that stuff really, really early and it's
before its time.
Yeah, before its time, really.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really interesting just in that aspect alone.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so after a while, there are some murders that are being taken place in the small town, which is like Northern California type area. And pretty much you don't really know the reason or rhyme of why this killer's killing people. You're almost on a murder mystery along with your two main characters to try and figure it out. Along the way, Lillian starts piecing the puzzle together, thinking that it's her cousin coming back for revenge. And a quick short story there. Basically, she was pushing her cousin, on a swing. He fell off, bumped his head, got a skull fracture. Apparently, became mental after that, and he had to spend his life in a mental institution, where he later got out, and she caught wind that he got out and he was coming after not so much her, but I guess like doctors and stuff that worked with him. But so she started piecing the puzzle together, and he was piecing it along with her. Meanwhile, you had these brutal murders happening, and might I say that when the murders were happening, those were some really good kills.
Really were.
I mean, for these, it's straight up practical effects. You can definitely tell. But I mean, man, it looked realistic.
Yeah.
When the axe was hitting the people, there was one scene where this girl grabs for something on a shelf, I think like a lighter or something, and he just comes down with the axe and just her fingers go flying off and everything. It's quite amazing looking, especially with the aero release is really good quality. But I just remember like the one kill that got to me was what was her name? I can't think of her name right now, but she was played by, I got her name written down somewhere here. Patty. Oh geez. Patty Shepard. Patty Shepard, in which this was her last film before she passed away. But yeah, the whole when she got the axe in the back and like the blood was just flowing out.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was really cool. That was wicked.
The practical effects of this movie were fantastic.
On point. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the kills that stands out to the one I always go back to is the one in the car wash, man. That car wash sequence is brilliant. I love it.
Yeah. That was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even because they shot while the car wash was actually moving.
Yeah.
So there's water everywhere. There's, so I did pick up that there was like water on the lens and stuff. But you can definitely tell, but it's artistic. Yeah, they captured it quite well. But yeah, overall, I had a blast with this film. Oh, and so spoiler again. So later on through the film, we end up finding out that Lily was basically the mental case, right? So Gerald, you could tell Gerald was falling for Lily, and Lily was falling for Gerald. However, basically she suffered from like basically split personality because she in fact was Charlie. Well, in fact, that she was the one that actually had the skull fracture and was placed in the hospital. And when she was placed in the hospital, it's almost like she created this character, Charlie. So there was no Charlie. There was no cousin named Charlie. It was just all made up by her. And she was your killer. And of course, we didn't find that out until the end of the film, once it's revealed. And Gerald actually caught on, and he confronted Lily about it. And of course, the sad thing is like he runs out of the house to go stop her, and the police end up stopping him. So, and you could kind of see a smile on her face at the end, like she got away with it.
Yeah, that end shot when they freeze frame on it is really, really sinister, really creepy.
It is.
Her face, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's gonna get away with all these murders, and they're gonna probably chalk it up as Gerald was the murderer.
Yeah.
So
like that. Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm gonna go into a little bit of well, first of all, I'll go into a little bit of trivia. So I did go over that this was Patty Shepard's last film, and the director, Jose
Lawrence.
Yes, thank you. He actually considered this to be his worst feature film,
which is really surprising. Really,
yeah,
actually, because I love this film. I actually really like his films. I'm kind of a big fan of his. So, even his schlocky stuff like Deadly Manor and stuff like that, I love.
Mm-hmm.
I think it. So,
yeah,
it's pretty funny that he considers this to be his worst film. That's surprising, really.
Yeah.
Maybe it was because it was one of his latter films, like the latter part of his career. I don't know.
And I am going to go over some things that I liked about this film and some things I disliked about this film. And, maybe I can kind of see his point a little bit. But yeah, so likes, I'll go ahead and go over that. So likes, I thought that the outfit, the whole getup of the killer was really cool.
Yeah.
The concept of the killer was really neat. It had that, it was simple. It was basically like a trench coat, beautiful shiny axe, and then just the white mask.
That mask though stands out.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I dug that. And again, like I said, the weapon was really cool. And of course, the kills were really done well, in my opinion, on this. I can't think of any of the kills that I disliked. All of them were fun.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, just from the hooker at the train station to, I mean, just there was actually a pretty decent little body count of this film. But yeah, this chick killed off a lot of people in this film.
She was a mass murderer.
Yeah.
Well, you
I did like the one scene where the guy was like trying to get the boat started, and
Yeah.
he was like, "What's going on?" And the chick like reached down and grabbed the head out of the motor. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, his buddy was pretty funny. His little buddy that was married to Patty's character.
Yeah, I never got that. So he married. Okay, so he married her for money, right?
Yeah, much.
He blatantly made it obvious
Yeah,
that he married her for money.
because I think for her perspective and his perspective, they both married each other for a mutual benefit other than love. Like I think she married him just to get a younger guy, and he married her just to get her money. Like it was no love lost between those two,
Yeah.
which is pretty.
So they were blatantly like cheating on each other.
Yeah, it's very out. Not so much her, but he was. He didn't give a shit. He was flirting with everybody.
Oh, she was cheating.
Yeah, she was cheating.
She was sleeping with that boat guy. What is it?
Yeah. But she was kind of like keeping it kind of under the radar. He was more open about it. Like he didn't care. He was trying to hide it a little bit. But you know what I was thinking, dude? You were describing the look of the killer in your movie, with the clean axe, the very blank white. So the look of like in my movie and your movie, the look of the killers is complete opposite. My killer is dungy and grimy and gross look. Your killer in your movie is very clean, proper, like everything's clean, shiny. Like mine's grungy and dirty and gross. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Yeah. It's like a complete like contrast. Like there's polar opposites.
All the way down to like my killer had like penny loafers on.
Yeah.
I don't know if you picked up on that, but yeah. And again, it throws you off because what female wears those type of shoes, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah. But just one thing I did kind of compare a little bit. I was like, you know, pale white face. You know, I mean, if you look right behind you, you see his face all over the place. Halloween, you know, Michael Myers. So I was like, like I kind of wanted something a little different there, but I mean, for overall, it wasn't it was creepy, you know.
The funny thing too is, because Halloween 4 came out that same year, so maybe he did purposely do that with the mask of the killer and stuff like that. Because I know that the mask in Halloween 4 is drastically different from the mask from Halloween 1, so it does look like just a blank slate of a mask. There's no like nothing there, you know. Yeah. So maybe that could be. I mean, well, at the time, right? Like you're gonna rip it off.
Yeah,
could have been.
Yeah, but yeah, overall, I had fun. Oh, I'm kind of getting away from subject a little bit, but yeah, there's a scene where there's dialogue between Gerald and his friend, who's married to Patty Shepard. I forget the full dialogue, but he's like, well, I've already got her money, so really she could just disappear and I'll be okay with it. They're basically talking about her like dying, and like he's okay with that. And then like later on in the film, Gerald's like, you know, well, maybe the axe murderer will get your wife, you know, because I know that's what you want. And he goes, people don't need to joke about stuff like that.
Yeah, he got real defensive about it. Like,
I was like, just 5 minutes ago, you were joking about how she could die and you wouldn't care. It blew my mind. I was like, what?
He's all the. We'll talk about my wife that
way. The dislikes. Music. God awful soundtrack to this film. Everything about it was terrible. I will say that when the killer was killing, there was some sounds that I liked, but overall it played like this old honky tonk music half the time, and then half the time it was like it was just really weird. I didn't care for it. I did catch on to who the killer was pretty rapidly, actually.
Okay, I was going to imagine that if you picked up on the twist.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on the twist. I didn't know how the story was going to play.
Or not the twist, excuse me, the reveal.
Yeah. Yeah, I caught on pretty quick, like, because I was obviously sitting here trying to figure out who the killer was, and even like my wife, she walked up and I was like, I know who the killer is. I was like, it's got to be one of the girls. It's either the old woman or it's Lillian, which it was Lillian. Um, but I didn't know how the story was going to go. So that twist where Charlie's all in her head, that kind of blew my mind a little bit. Um, some of the bad acting with the main characters I didn't care for, like that dialogue right there and stuff like that. The way that some dialogue was portrayed, I didn't care for. So overall, I'm kind of half and half with this film. Um, I like it in a sense of it is for what it is. It's a decent little slasher film, especially coming from the 80s. It's kind of coming from the outskirts of the slasher boom at that point. So, I mean, 88, there wasn't that many after that.
Yeah.
So it was kind of one of the later slasher films. But, like I said, for what it was, it's not a bad film. Just some of the things I disliked about it. The gore, everything else, even the pig head in the bed and everything. That was cool. I really liked the dialogue of the sheriff. He was quite a smart ass. I really liked
Yeah.
him.
I was gonna say the sheriff character. I liked him too.
Well, I really love how he was chalking up like these brutal like murder scenes as like suicides and
Yeah.
stuff. Like clearly this like the one was what was it? They got called into do like a pest control or whatever in a
Oh yeah,
bar,
buddy.
and they're
Because that's
walking through.
it. Buddy was like he had his own pest control kind of thing. His own
Yeah,
sort of that his wife, the lady with the money that actually bought him the truck and everything like that. They get into a little bit with that, but I was going to tell you about that. I was going to ask you about that scene, like that scene when they found the body. Like
yeah,
that was gnarly, man.
that really was. And
Super.
again, it was classic trope.
Yeah.
It's meant for that body to pop out at somebody, and it just so happens that the body is like brutally. You can tell like something happened to like the jaw. Like obviously an axe hit that woman in the face, right? And the thing about it is she's hanging from her feet, and the sheriff like walks up and he's like, yeah, nothing crazy like this ever happens in this town. And he's like looking at the corner and he's like, this was a suicide, right? And he was like, well, I mean, we don't know yet. We got to determine that. And he was like, yeah, but she was hanging. I said, well, what suicide hangs from their damn feet?
Right. Yeah, I love shit like that, man, because it's so tropey. It's so like you just gotta roll your eyes, like, dude, really?
Yeah.
But you just
It's like,
can't help.
what was it? What was it? The hooker that got brutally massacred at the train station. They were
Yeah,
like, oh, clearly it was a train accident.
yeah. It's almost like the mayor from Jaws kind of thing, where it's like, oh, we have to keep up appearances. We can't let anybody know that there's shit going down. So we got to say that everything's okay, everything's under control when it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, clearly.
It's that kind of thing.
Yeah. But overall, my rating, so yeah, I ended up rating this, or I'm going to rate this as 3.5 stars. It
Great.
is I mean, it is solid, so 3.5 out of 5.
It's good.
Um, yeah, I can't look past some of the things that I disliked about this film. Um, but with that being said, cinematography was awesome. Editing was even awesome. I can't pick out something in this film that I didn't like about the editing.
Yeah.
And again, I got to go back to the special effects. It was really well done. So,
Agreed, man.
but yeah,
No,
that's
you're not too far off from me, man. I think I gave that one a 4. You're not too far off from me. So it sounds like to me like both the reviews that we did tonight, we liked the films, we didn't love the films. That's what it came down to. They were
that's a fair assumption.
more of the, yeah,
Yeah.
same, because we're pretty much right on par with our ratings for both. Like right there at a 3 to 3.5. Like that's just mid tier for us, and it's still very good. I mean, that's not to not the film's complete. Like I said, we liked them. And in my case, I know I liked The Hills Run Red. I know if they tweaked a couple things, I would have loved it though, and that's what really deters it for me. It's like, man, I could have really loved this film if they would have changed a couple things. But
Mm-hmm.
it's unfortunate that it it is what it is. But like I said, it's still not a bad little movie. If our audience cut it out there and came back, and I do recommend checking it out because the look of the killer's badass. I mean, he's definitely memorable. He should be, like I said, they should, when we talked about Terrifier, or more or less when we talked about All Hallows Eve, when we talked about, hey, Art should get his own standalone like slasher film. I agree with Babyface should get his own like standalone slasher film where it's just a typical slasher plot. Not too crazy, not too not too unique. Just let him just have a body count. Just let him go. That's what we want to see. Variations, the kills, and everything like that. Because I mean, the kills, there wasn't a lot of, when he used his weapon, it wasn't too many very different kills, unique kills, except for that one, the tree kill, which was fucking awesome. Would have been even better if it was practical, but it still looked cool, even with the CGI. But that was another thing, was the CGI, man. That time period, like, everybody was using it as a tool, like, and just overusing it. They forgot, like, slasher films cut their teeth on practical effects and blood. Like, that's the main draw. I mean, besides the killer, I mean, is the practicality. And, so I guess they kind of forgot about that at a certain point. But still, I, seek it out, check it out. I still suggest the viewers watch it and check it out for themselves, see what they think. They might actually love the meta stuff and the fact that it's a film within a film. Like, they could really, really dig that.
Definitely. And same goes for mine. It's definitely a film worth watching, especially, for its classic factor. It is what it is. It is, like I said, one of the ones that are kind of on the outskirts of the boom.
Yeah.
But overall, it was enjoyable. It was, like I said, just a handful of items that I didn't care for, which ultimately maybe now the rewatch value for me is still there. I want to watch this again because it is a fun little slasher to sit down and watch. And really just for the brutalness of it, because the kills are pretty brutal in this film.
They definitely stand out as being very brutal. I was going to ask you, Corey, did it kind of have the feel of a Giallo to you a little bit?
So,
yeah.
Yeah, I could see that because, again, the killer is using only one type of weapon. The killer has a distinct look, a very almost classy look. I could see that. You can definitely tell it's not. I mean, it isn't, I guess you would say, American film because it was filmed here. But it is, obviously it comes from Spain.
Yeah,
it's got that.
You could tell that European, influence that it had, definitely, even though it was shot here.
Right. Well, I mean, you definitely get the feel that it's a murder mystery, and the cops are on the back burner, and you're sitting here with your main character trying to figure the story out.
That's why to me it has that. But this is definitely a straightforward slasher film. for me, definitely. It does have a little feel every now and again, but.
And here's the other thing. When Gerald goes to Lillian's house to confront her about basically the split personality thing, you can tell he really still loves her. He still has feelings for her. But if you notice, he's wearing black gloves. Because the scene where he's going up the stairs all quiet, he's got the black gloves on, which again is a trope from Giallo films. So that could have been a nice little nod to Giallo.
It could have been, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, I did notice that. I was like, ooh.
Nice little touch there.
But I knew that that wasn't our killer because our killer didn't have black gloves the entire time.
Yeah.
So I knew that that wasn't the killer. I had a feeling that it was Gerald sneaking in. But yeah. Interesting. It was fun.
Yeah. It's good stuff. It's good stuff, man. It definitely is one of those films that lived up to the hype for me because I had been hearing about it for a long time. And then when it finally, the Blu-ray dropped, I was like, finally get to check it out. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thought it was really good. Especially, we talked about the later part of the slasher boom, that stands out for me. I know, I know. There's a lot of really good late '80s slasher films out there that just need to be discovered and watched and checked out because there's some good ones. They really are. It was a magical time like that from '87 to like '89. There was a lot of. It almost had like a smaller resurgence
Mm-hmm.
at a certain point, where it didn't peak, but it started to kind of blossom again. It was there's a lot of them that just kind of fell between the cracks. There's some good ones out there. Another one I saw was Welcome to Spring Break. That was a good one. That was another one that's shot in America, but it's an Italian slasher film essentially. But it feels like an American slasher film. So it's another one. Kind of reminds me a lot of Edge of the Axe too. It's right up there. Umberto Lenzi, man.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, one of the things I didn't mention this, one of the things I did like is the opening credits of the film. It actually had like, and you see all this later on in the 90s and stuff with like The Matrix, stuff like that. And a lot of probably actiony films. But this was neat because this is something that I'd never seen come out of the 80s before. Maybe on a couple other movies, but not too many. But it had like a green bar. Like it would be like it was showing like the mountainsides and stuff like that and the lakes and stuff in the background, but then there would be like a green bar and you could hear typing and it would be like the person's name typing across the screen and stuff. Like computer generated stuff. And I was like, oh, that's a neat touch because this is a film based around computers too, because
Yeah.
because he through research on a computer he figured out who the killer was. So that was
Computers
pretty
had
cool.
a big part in the plot.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. That is neat. You don't see that very often. Well, not then.
Exactly. And that's what I said. A lot of the showcase and technology on this film was way before its time, really, because I mean, we didn't have instant messenger or stuff like that back in the day. Obviously,
Yeah, well, no,
this
no.
was literally two people talking to one another over a computer. So it was pretty neat.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Did you have any honorable mentions or no?
No, well, I was going to bring up another movie or two that I saw in the past month that kind of fits the theme that we were talking about with that kind of late '80s like slasher. That's another one that just popped up in my mind is Rogerio Deodato's Body Count, which is a movie I saw for the first time not too recently because of course it's on Tubi. So I was like, oh, cool. I've been wanting to pick up the DVD, but the DVD I think it's a region 2, so I couldn't really pick that up and watch. So when I saw it on Tubi, I was like, oh, sweet, I can finally check this movie out because I want to see it. And it's another one that's of course an Italian production, but it was shot in America. So just three right there that like off the top of my head, that you brought up too with your review, but there's two that I just automatically thought of when you said Edge of the Axe, and I was like, there's two other movies that feel exactly the same as the time they came out. So, yeah, I thought about doing that for the Roulette episode last month, about doing that film, but I didn't write my notes on it. So I like to have my notes ready for my reviews. So I didn't write my notes. I was like, I'll just do something different. But I thought about it. I was going to do that one. Came this close to doing that one. But yeah,
Right
that
on.
was cool, man. I like the process of like kind of hiding what we're gonna talk about until we do the show. It's really
Yeah,
cool. Kind of
that's pretty cool.
surprise each other.
It's pretty neat.
Good structure. I like it.
Are you ready to land it?
Plane, yes, sir.
All right. Well, folks, we appreciate you sticking around with us and watching our reviews on The Hills Run Red and Edge of the Axe. And be sure to check those films out if you haven't seen them. And again, I don't know if The Hills Run Red is on Tubi, but I know.
Not quite sure. I did watch my DVD copy of this one,
Yeah.
which Screen Factory, I think, recently put out a Blu-ray. It just got released on Blu-ray for the first time, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. So check that out. And like I said, the film that I reviewed is on Tubi, so check that out if you guys haven't seen it. Thank you for sticking around, guys. And also, if you want to, head on over to our Facebook group and join the discussion. We're about to start a new month of recording, so we'll be getting a new episode out soon to you guys next week on a review that we chose. But with that, you got anything, man?
No, I just want to the listeners and to everybody involved in the page and everything like that. I just want to thank you guys so much for your continued support of the group and of our podcast and stuff like that. Like I said, we wouldn't be doing it without you guys. It's awesome to see that feedback and the love and we really appreciate it. I just want to take the time to thank you guys so much. Any chance I can get to thank listeners and stuff like that, I want to take that opportunity because really it means a lot to us. We talk about it all the time. Me, you, and Daniel, we talk about, man, it's just mind blowing that people have gravitated to this so much, and we have like continued support from the community, and we just really can't thank you guys enough.
Definitely, yes. Thank you, guys. Thank you. But yeah. Later, guys.
Later.